What's up, guys? Welcome to Essential Style. So 2020 was kind of a crazy year. A lot of stress going on, a lot of changes. I think the world got turned upside down like insane. But there are a lot of good things specifically that I've experienced. I just wanted to discuss. And I think it's just going to be something that's kind of good for me and everyone else to hear that in times of stress, in times of adversity, a lot of times we grow and we end up learning different things where if that never happened, we would have just kept going along and not really been living up to our full potential. So there's a couple things I wanted to discuss about some of my positive experiences and some of my positive outcomes that the COVID pandemic in year 2020 brought out. So the first thing I learned to be more grateful. I learned gratitude. I'm much more grateful right now, and the time of filming this video is January in 2021. January 2020, I felt like it feels like it was so long ago, and I'm a totally different person. Maybe not a totally different person, but I have a much different outlook on everything. Just how I was looking at my life and just things that I get aggravated with. I appreciate the people in my life. I appreciate the experience I've had. I'm very fortunate that no one in my immediate family got sick, including myself. Everyone's all set. So really, it just kind of put things to perspective for me. And even though I do get aggravated here and there, I do try to just count my blessings every single day, and I try to be as grateful as I can, even for something as far as like getting out of bed. I'm grateful that I can get out of bed every day and I can just go about my day and get aggravated at sitting in traffic, for example. Especially during the year 2020, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of less fortunate people out there, and it just kind of makes me remind me that, hey, it could be a lot worse. And whereas a year ago, maybe I'd be complaining about how I had a tough day at work and I was sitting in traffic, but now, I look at and say, hey, I get to go to work and I get to drive a car. So it kind of just changed my perspective on that. And second point that I learned is I look at time and money differently. And this is kind of just because of the financial situation that I'm in. I'm kind of a bit more fortunate. I'm on the more fortunate side of my finances just because I do really well at like saving my money and make smart purchases. But for example, in the year 2018, 2019, it was all about going to work, working as much almost overtime as I could. And just if the overtime's there, I got to get it, which I think is good to do for a period of your life, because especially if you want to build your savings account and you want to have a comfortable life and you don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. But there comes a time where you burn out. And for a majority of 2018 and 2019, I can just remember that I didn't make it to the gym as much as I wanted. I didn't get out on my bike as much as I wanted. I didn't make any videos during that time. I made a video in 2017. I made 3 videos, and then my next video was March 2020. So I look at time and money a little bit differently. And instead of always working a 50-hour work week all the time, no questions asked, I kind of think like, hey, I worked late the past 3 days. Maybe on that 4th day, maybe now it's time to kind of take a little bit of a rest. I have laundry to do. I have household chores to do. Maybe I just want to go out, just work on my bike. Maybe I want to make a quick YouTube video. Maybe I just want to hang out. I think it's good to kind of take that time to recover, because I've definitely experienced burnout in the past few years. I would even go in on my days off constantly just to make that extra money, which I did have a goal in mind, but I did find myself, I just felt like I was working all the time. And I think at the summer of 2018, I felt like the summer just blew by because I had days off, but I decided to go in and make money. And all of a sudden the summer was over and I said, all I did was work, which is good. I had a lot of money, but at some point it's got to be a healthy balance. And my balance was definitely a bit less healthy than it is right now. I was just all about going to my one job, making as much overtime as I could, and just more money, more work, more money. That's all I did. And I think at some point it's not healthy. With that being said, I actually, back in March when the stock market dipped, I did kind of do a lot of research, talking to some of my coworkers, and I did invest in the stock market. And I invested in the stock market before, and I didn't really make any money. I had some weird accounts going on. I didn't know what was going on. Someone else was managing my money for me, and I didn't know what was going on. So I just said, this is for the birds. I don't like it. Well, I actually did some of my own research. I ended up buying a lot of stocks on the dip when the stock market dipped down in about March 2020, when the pandemic first hit and they shut everything down. So what ended up happening was when the market went back up, I got some pretty good gains out of that. Now, of course, that can't happen every year. You can't expect that to happen every year. Average return of the stock market every year is like 10%. To get 30 or 40% every year is not really feasible, but it kind of just did open my eyes to say, hey, Instead of working a 60-hour week and just making that extra money through overtime, why don't I take some of the money in my savings account and invest it in the stock market, and then there's my overtime. Now I can go home at 5 o'clock every day, and I still made the same amount of money as the previous year. The only difference is, instead of making my regular 40 hours and then overtime, I did my regular 40 hours and my stock market, my investments. So that's something that's really great. I always heard about the stock market. I heard about how people made a lot of money, and I actually did some of my own research and ended up makes things a bit easier. And the next thing I learned, number 4, would be I learned to slow down. And this kind of goes like what I was saying before with just working nonstop. I kind of learned to just dial it back a little bit and then just kind of relax a little bit. I don't have to be going 100% all the time because that burns you out real fast. And then, like I said, in summer 2019, I woke up and said, oh no, summer 2018. Summer of 2018, I woke up at the end of the summer and said, what did I do? All I did was go to work. I mean, I had a lot of fun at work, but it would have been nice to enjoy some other aspects of life. You know, can't let one aspect just take over your entire life. I don't think that that's very healthy. And with watching the world, it just felt like the world was just going as fast as it could, and it was just going faster and faster and faster. People in New York City were working more and more and more and more and more. Everyone was running as fast as they could. New York City rents were going higher and higher and higher with no end in sight. And finally, it's almost like COVID came along and this pandemic came along, turned the whole world upside its head, and it hit a big reset button and everything. And if you look at it from the right perspective, it gave everybody the chance to kind of just dial it back and say, wait a second, let's slow down here and let's make sure that we're on the path that we want to be on. And let's just kind of try to enjoy life. Instead of just focusing on the finish line and say, go, 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 let's enjoy the journey. Let's enjoy what's going on as we're going. And I've even seen my neighbors in my neighborhood, people were walking around. It almost felt like, I don't live in New York City, but it almost felt like I was living in New York City because all of a sudden people are out, people were talking. Whereas before the pandemic happened, it was just, I can't talk, I gotta go to work. I'm rushing to work, I'm rushing here, I'm rushing there, rushing for my train. People aren't rushing around as much. It was kind of nice. And also, I learned to value the simpler things in life. Things like riding my bike on a sunny day with a little bit less traffic. Seeing everyone else slow down so they could actually have conversation with you and not just being nonstop go, go, go all the time. And just kind of stopping and smelling the roses, smelling the coffee, just kind of enjoying things. You don't need to be going 100% all the time like I previously mentioned. Another thing that kind of happened to me is really interesting. In the summer, it was a pretty stressful year for me. Don't make a mistake. This was a very stressful year for me. One of the most stressful years I've ever had to live through. But what ended up happening was I ended up being a lot less of a people pleaser. And I kind of said, well, you know, if I know I'm doing the best that I can and it's not good enough for somebody else, I don't need to worry about what they think. That's on them. That's not my responsibility to make everyone else happy all the time. I should be making most people happy most of the time. I'm not going to be a jerk, but it's okay if I do something that's good for me and someone else doesn't agree with me, whether they call me selfish or whether they call me whatever. It doesn't matter. The main thing is I'm a lot more self-confident now, and I'm just much less of a people pleaser. I'm not afraid to say what's on my mind, and I'm also a bit more comfortable just kind of sitting by myself. I don't really feel like I need to always be talking to somebody to be comfortable. So my self-confidence has gone up. And I think that's what happens in times of stress and in times of adversity. That's when we grow stronger. Think about going to the gym. You know, your brain doesn't want you to go to the gym. Your brain wants you to sit down and watch TV all day. It's comfortable. You don't want to go outside, especially not when it's cold out. You don't want to ride your bike in the cold like I was the other weekend. But what happens is when you do that, something happens to you mentally where you end up saying that it just makes you stronger as an individual. And it makes you more confident too. At least that's how my experience is. I don't know if it'll happen with you. This is how it happened with me. So that was pretty cool to see. In times of adversity, in times of stress, it ended up just making me stronger. I was saying before about the gym, you lift heavier weights, it's hard, but it makes your muscles bigger. It makes you stronger. Similar thing, it makes your mental muscles stronger. You're emotionally strong, you're mentally strong. And that's how it was with me going through all the stress in the summer. So it was funny because I did not like going through it at the time, but the reward is it's just much more self-confidence. Another thing too is, this is kind of self-explanatory, but I did restart this YouTube channel. If you go back and you look at my earlier videos, I had the 0 grand video, and then I had the black running shoe video, which was kind of like, you know, not really well thought out, and I had the Ella Bean Boot video. Those were all made, I think, within 6 months of each other, and that was the year 2017. I didn't touch YouTube until March 2020, I think it was. Yeah, March, when I did the Clark's Desert Boot video. The reason being is because I started to get more success in my job, and I was having a lot of fun with that. But then something happened where I said, oh, let me pick up YouTube again, just because I have a lot of thoughts and I have a lot of experiences that I like to share, and I do think it could help people, or generally, if I could just give my opinion to people and it can kind of, like I say, and just help people. Just like my first YouTube video where I didn't know whether I should buy those $300 wingtip shoes, the Zero Grands, and I bought them, and I ended up having a great experience with them. So that's something that I didn't know, but I wanted to pass that on. I have a lot of experiences with that. How to spend less money and save more money, just all sorts of things. I kind of know that when I talk to people, they seem like they're interested, unless they're really good at fooling me. They do seem like they're interested in what I have to say. So I do feel that I can kind of tell a really good story. And if I can kind of help people and just spread my message, which is nothing too crazy, just kind of live life, and I don't know what my message is. Just don't dress like shit, and don't waste your money, and live healthy, and don't stress out about things, and don't worry about what people think. That's basically my message, I would say. But hey, I mean, I like helping people. I'm having fun doing it, having a lot of fun. It seems like you guys are having fun too. In conclusion, those are just some of the 7 experiences that I've had that ended up being really good experiences, and I've learned some really good lessons from them. And I'm telling you, if the pandemic never happened, and if 2020 never happened, I never would have had those experiences. I still would have been working my job as fast as I could. I probably wouldn't have started YouTube because I wouldn't have had any time to start YouTube again, just because I'd be working so much and chasing the almighty dollar. I probably wouldn't have invested in the stock market because I'd be like, whatever. I tried it 3 times, and then it ended up just not making money. I probably would have just been nice to everybody just because I didn't want anyone to dislike me. Just a lot of things that just caused me to think outside of the box. And again, I'm very fortunate. No one got sick. No one in my immediate family lost my job. No one lost their house. Nothing really crazy happened. I want to stress that. I'm not saying that it was a good year. I know it wasn't. It just kind of forced me to look at things from a different perspective and say, thank God, I'm very fortunate. And if you made it this far in the video, another thing that just popped into my head is I do happen to tip a little bit more. So if I go into, everyone shops small businesses because we want small businesses to stay afloat during this pandemic, right? Well, instead of not tipping to try to save my money, I always put $2, $3 in the tip jar. Always. I just figure I can do it. I need to pay it forward, because there are people out there that can't do it. There are people out there that can't afford to buy themselves food. So I can easily afford to buy myself food. Instead of buying more food, let me just buy a glass of water, like I was saying in my coffee video. We buy a glass of water, instead of spending $2 or $3 on that coffee, put $2 or $3 in the tip jar. It's a way of paying it forward. And I do feel like karma comes around, and a lot of times the shop workers, or the sandwich shop workers, coffee shop workers, wherever I'm getting my food or drink or wherever from, a lot of times they don't notice it, but I'm not doing it to impress them. I'm just doing it because I feel like it's the right thing to do, pay it forward. So guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope my message helped you look at things in a bit different situation, try to be more grateful. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.